Hello everyone. Today I will be giving you my review for the Gpd Win Mini. This will be my week 1 review of the 2024 model. Some specs to go over real quick. It has a 7640U CPU with a 760M internal GPU, 16 gigabytes of RAM, and 512 gigabytes of storage. It also has a 120Hz variable refresh rate screen. However, I haven't found any games that I can play at 120Hz yet. Maybe I'm looking at the wrong settings, or maybe I'm just not playing the right games. However, that's also because I'm only playing 2 games at the moment, Mega Man 3 and an Insomniac Spider-Man. But overall, I'm really enjoying it. However, we have 3 categories to go through: the good, the bad, and the 50-50. The good. I really enjoy the screen. It's very bright, nice contrast, and it has good colors. Some other things that are good about it. VRR is very helpful from what I've heard on the ROG Ally. I haven't got to personally test it yet, but I will report back when I do. Maybe it's being used in this Spider-Man gameplay. There are some micro stutters, but it barely feels like it. VRR is on, so that could be a factor. Other things I like about this. I love the form factor. I have the Gpd Win Max 2, which is basically the big brother to this, because it's basically the same design but with a 16:10 screen that is 10.1 inches and more for work than gaming because it is quite heavy. Next thing I really liked was the price on Droids. I got it on the summer sale for $690. It was $730 after shipping, so I felt like that was worth it. It may not be as powerful as the 7840 or Z1 Extreme, but if you're looking for this form factor, there really was no beating that price. It also feels good in the hands. The controls are very nice. I don't have an issue with them. Triggers, they're analog, so if you want to play racing games, trigger sensitive, stuff like that, it works. Despite it being Ryzen 5 also, it handles games like an absolute champ. Currently, Spider-Man, as you can tell from the gameplay, it looks really good. It may not look as good as like the 7840U or ROG Ally. However, this was a good compromise between battery life and graphics. And the last thing I have to mention about my the good about this handheld is the 16:9. There are so many games on the Win Max that don't use the extra real estate by the 16:10 screen, which is a bummer because it's really good for first-person shooters. Well, now we're going to move on to the bad. I've had some controller issues. The left and right triggers don't go to 100 on a controller tester. However, the left trigger felt like it wasn't seating properly, and I had to really wear it in for it to actually feel like it's going down all the way. Other than that, after I wore it in, it was fine. Another bad aspect about it is the metal of the keyboard notch can scratch the screen. Well, not scratch the screen. It scratches the reflective coating on the screen, so I'd get a screen protector if you're going to get it. The fan noise is quite loud, even if you have a fan curve on it. I have a fan curve, so you can hear it in some of my videos, how it's whirring. It shouldn't be too bad if you're in an area that's kind of has noise, like maybe an airport, but if you're somewhere really quiet like a classroom, then you're definitely going to get some looks. And my final complaint is, this is more of a personal thing, but 16 gigabytes of RAM. I get they wanted to make it cheaper. However, I would love to see going forward for these lower end models, instead of 16 gigabytes of RAM, 24 gigabytes of RAM, such as what the ROG Ally X is doing. It's cheaper than 32, but gives you more of an advantage than 16. However, I don't know what the logistics of it are. Now we have the iffy or the ugly or the 50-50 in my words. The 50-50. First thing is, there's no front end like on Legion Space or Armory Crate. However, that's a personal opinion thing. There's also other Chinese handhelds that have front ends. Like I know 1X Player has one. I don't know what they call it, but I know Aya has Aya Space. But as you saw in the beginning, I believe, there's Cypher's BAT, which is just a simple program that lets you control TDP. It's how you can see the total drawn power, the frame rate, and the remaining time in the top left-hand corner. So far, it's really easy to set up. I'll do a video on how to set it up at some point. Um, but it's a 50-50 because you either want a front end or you don't, and I know people who prefer not having a front end. Other thing is the device has been reported to get quite hot. I have not experienced that so far. Even pushing it to the edge with Spider-Man, it hasn't gotten too hot to handle. It's quite a cool temperature, and my hands sweat very much. So if it was really hot, then it would be very hard for me to play. I don't think I've ever had to wipe my hands off a mid playing session, so that's overall a plus. Um, Other thing is it's not an OLED screen. I know some people really like OLED, such as the Steam Deck OLED, but you're not. I don't think you're gonna find 120 hertz horizontal orientation screen with OLED. If GPD can find that for the Win Mini 2, that would be fun. But if not, that's also cool. There have been some driver issues. Like I cannot for the life of me get Monster Hunter Rise to work, and I had some crashing on Kingdom Hearts 2. I don't know exactly how bad the crashing is, but I couldn't get Kingdom Hearts 2 to run for the life of me. I had to go on Google and mess with the settings for a couple minutes. So that was definitely an annoyance. But the last thing I have for the ugly is the battery life. The battery life is iffy. Depending on what you're playing, it can last an hour and a half up to 5. Stuff like Spider-Man's gonna drain your battery fast. My settings for Spider-Man is using like AMD FSR frame gen, and it's at I believe balance setting at 720p. So I think it's running at internal resolution of like 540p or something like that. I'm not too knowledgeable on the actual um, logistics of what FSR runs at, but overall, to get to the end of my yapping, the first week with the Win Mini has been amazing. There are some flaws, but depending on who you are and what you're looking for in a handheld, if you absolutely want a clamshell, you adore the size of it. It's a little bit bigger than a 3DS, and it's about 2 to 3 times as thick. But I have had some flaws with it. I'm really enjoying my time, but nothing's gonna be perfect. Everything's gonna have flaws or issues. It's just you gotta weigh your options. Can you accept the flaws and issues for the price tag? For me, $740 I was willing to accept the flaws and issues that might come with these Chinese handhelds, which that's not a knock on them. These Chinese handhelds are doing unique stuff, like with Aya with the Neo DS. 1X players doing their whole thing with like the removable controllers before Lenovo even did the Legion Go. So personally, if you want a handheld that's a clamshell, this is my 1 week review of the Win Mini. I can give it a recommendation only on the condition that if you do not have a Steam Deck or anything else that's working for you, I'd wait for the upgrade, the Ryzen AI 9 H37. I don't remember. It's one of the processors that's coming out because I just got this as a side grade for my Win Mini or my Win Max 2. But that's about it. Lobotomized Logan out. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, or don't. I'm not your parent.